so a lot of people don't understand when you have clients that are in the public eye, right? There is an emotional toll that takes. And when you are one of their advisors, then you kind of get in that boat with them, right? Because with them being the brand, there is a lot of pressure that is on them.
Right.
So in order to keep the business, i.e. the brand, i.e. the person going, there is this emotional toll, this emotional tax, whether it's, because I have accomplished X, my family expects for me to do Y,
yes.
or, how is it that I'm expected to be on 24/7, but I'm a human? It's the emotional tax that sometimes the conversations that I am having have nothing to do with the law.
Amen.
But it is solely about like, hey, I need to know that you're okay as a person. Like, let's talk through it. I know that this happened. And what happens behind the scenes, even with social media making people feel like they have complete access and they know the full story. No, you don't.
So I know already that you are one of the many people who are always curious about what happens behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. And I'm happy to have another episode of a little peek behind what happens in our world in the music and film and TV business. So I want to say hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Thank Me Later Show with me, your host, Jini Thornton. And I'm happy to have a friend here today who is going to set the stage because, when you think about talent and you think about artists, y'all are just looking at their lives. You have no idea the team that is behind them. You have no idea the amount of work that has to happen to have this person for you all to see what you see and fall in love with them. But you also don't know how one of the most critical people on their team is their attorney. So I want to welcome today entertainment attorney friend, Keisha Perry-Walker. Hello, Keisha Perry-Walker.
What's going on?
I'm so happy that you are here today. So, I want to tell the people about who you are a little bit, and then I'm so excited to have a full entertainment conversation with you today.
Let's jump into it.
Let's jump into it. So our guest today, again, Keisha Perry-Walker, who is an innovative principal behind the Perry Law Group, a corporate and entertainment law firm based here in Atlanta, Georgia, where she provides counsel to recording artists, producers, songwriters, managers, executives, entrepreneurs, independent labels, digital influencers, filmmakers, and content creators across the country. Some of her past and present clients include folks like Pinky Cole, Tashina Arnold, and Tamika Tiny Harris, Plies, David Banner, De'Ara Taylor, who we're going to talk about quite a bit today. Excited about that. She has also served as production legal on television and film projects in the entertainment industry. My friend is a strategic consultant, legal counsel to business owners, helping them establish all the things they need to do to be successful in this entertainment industry, especially a lot on the film and TV side for sure, and how to, generate that revenue and leverage their time and space. She's also worked with major corporations like Verizon and Google, Sony, Coca-Cola. I could just go on and on about you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to tell the quick story about how we know each other. And so you've been in the entertainment business how many years now?
This year is 20.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Yeah. I love that. This is my 30th year. And so I don't know, maybe about 12, 15-ish years ago, I was at Emory University it was a panel, some entertainment panel. I don't even know what it was. So I walk in the room and there's up on the stage, there's a few entertainment attorneys. And Keisha was one of them. And then there's another young lady, Avita Kegler, was up there. And I'm thinking to myself, who are these young ladies? Who are they? Like, how are they up there? And I've been in the game for a while and I don't even know who they are. I walked out the room immediately, called our friend Yawanda, and I was like, do you know who these girls are? She was like, yes. I was like, what? Like, there's a whole class behind us and I didn't even know. And what that did was it really pushed me to say, I need to know who this class is behind me in the business. And we created a group called The Collective. And we've been together what, 12-ish years now?
Yeah.
At least.
13. Yeah. You know, I have to pull out my notes.
I know.
I'm the historian.
She's the historian of our group. But really, it was our way of essentially reaching back and making sure the class that's coming behind us got what we never got, which was leadership and access and advice, like whatever that y'all needed on the business side, but also personal too.
Yes.
So it has been amazing to be part of the collective with you. Watch y'all grow up. I feel like I've been watching y'all grow up.
I know. It's amazing because when I even think back to the collective or the number of people in the industry that are like, oh, y'all little clique.
Yes.
It's like, well, it really wasn't meant to be. It turned into
but
a
it is
clique.
one.
It is members only.
Yeah.
It is definitely members
And
only.
membership has its privileges too. Right. Okay. Look, and I'm just from the alphas. Many are called, few are chosen. Okay.
All right, my Panhandle sister. We gon'
Okay. So let's start having the conversation because I know with you being in the business 20 years, again, this is my 30th year, a lot of people are always fascinated about what we do.
Yes.
But not understanding what it is, what we really do. Because I think a lot of times they just think it's fun and jet setting and all of that. When
Yes.
it's a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot
It
of
is.
work. So how did you even get in the entertainment business? Like, kind of briefly tell us what your journey was to the industry.
So honestly, going into law school, I thought that I was going to be a corporate attorney, work for a Fortune 500 company. But I graduated from the University of Tennessee, go Vols. And I thought I was going to do sports and entertainment law because University of Tennessee, I was there with Peyton Manning and, you know, Jamal Lewis, Peerless Price. Like, them boys were bad coming out of there, as well as, you know, a lot of the Lady Vols under Pat Summitt. So UT was like a powerhouse when it came to sports.
Right.
But long story short, sports isn't where the calling ended up being. I started in music. And I always tell this story about the power of telling people what you want to do, but that's with limitations. I moved to Atlanta after law school. I thought I was going to go to California. That didn't work out simply because I'm an only child. My mom was sick. And so I was like, I can't go that far from Memphis. So Atlanta ended up being home. When I was looking for an apartment, I was telling the lady, you know, I wanted to get into entertainment law. And she ended up introducing me to a mentor. And that was how I entered into entertainment because he took me under his wing. He started, you know, teaching me the business. And from there, it was networking. That piece, that networking piece was so powerful. And quick story, one of my friends, Ryan Cameron, I met him at some party. I'm a big LL fan. And I went to see LL and I ended up meeting Ryan that night.
Right.
And again, telling him what I wanted to do. And he told me, he said, the music industry is big in Atlanta. He said, pick an area, become an expert. And that becomes your thing. And I chose publishing because publishing was an area that a lot of people didn't truly understand. So that's how I began to market myself at these events, that I was a subject matter expert in publishing. And that's how I built that's how I built my firm in the entertainment industry. And it started with music.
You know, as long as I've known you, I've never heard your Ryan Cameron story.
Yeah.
And now what's funny about it, Ryan Cameron is the first client that I ever had.
Really?
Uh-huh. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
I'm like, we have that connection.
Yes.
Starting in radio. When I started in radio, he had just left to go to DC because he had been on V103. He had this 6 months that he could not be on the radio in Atlanta. They sent him to DC. And when I started working with Radio One, several weeks or a month or so later, he came back. And that really began our relationship. And he was one of literally the first client I ever had.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Shout out to Ryan Cameron today.
I know.
So with, you take this journey and you focus on publishing. Can you just define what publishing is for everybody's like, what is this? What does she talk about?
So publishing is what I call the mailbox money. That's the key to long-term money, but that is the income that is generated for whoever creates either the lyrics or the beat of a song. And so just like when you hear old school songs from the 70s, right, that resurge in the 90s and, even now. Well, the publishing piece is what continues to pay because you have to pay whoever the creator is unless the property is in the public domain. One of our family friends back home, his dad wrote with Al Green on most of his songs.
Right.
Their family lives well off of publishing.
Right.
Because again, it is the owners or the content creators of what you hear, the singers or the performers performing. They are not always the writers or the composers of it.
Right. So the mailbox money, no one's ever mad at mailbox money.
No, that creates generational wealth.
I know, we'll take that.
That's what creates the generational wealth. So we definitely take the mailbox money.
It's funny. Another one of our mutual friends, Sandra Brown Dubois, called me several months ago, and she was telling me about one of her clients who had passed away years ago, but still their family had this body of work. And the family, and this person had been dead, I think, probably like over 25 years. The family was still generating like about $1 million a year of income from songs that were written like back in the 50s or 60s. And it wasn't like this crazy body of work. Like if I said the name, people would be like, who is that? I was like, why has he been dead all this time still making all this money? Yeah. Talking about mailbox money. Yes. Talking about a legacy. That's crazy. So tell me, what do you think is one of the biggest misunderstandings of our business? Pick the music side or the film and TV side. Like, what do you think people just don't get?
I think the work that goes into it. Like, again, as you were saying earlier, what people believe that entertainment is versus what it actually is. It's what they say is level set. It's levels to it, right? I can't tell you the number of interns that I have that come in and they're like, oh, yeah, I want to be an entertainment attorney, but they think that our job is on the red carpet. And it's like, no, you're not the celebrity, boo.
Okay.
But you can go and read that contract and make sure you understand
you're not even
what
going,
goes
boo,
into it.
Actually. You're not even going, boo.
Not this time.
No.
Not this time.
Right.
But the work that we actually put in behind the scenes, people think that it is as simple as the end product. Like, even when it comes to film and television, most consumers that are watching the show, they have no idea
how much work
of the 12-hour shoot days that go into it and the 2 hours that go into it before and the 2 hours that go into it afterwards, or the post-production time. Like, people think, all they do is shoot it, edit it, and it's done. Like, that can be anywhere from a 3 to an 18-month process, depending on the size of the project. So people just don't understand the work that goes into it, or they think it's effortless.
Right. I always equate it to dog years. I'm like, every 1 year in the entertainment industry to me is like 7 years, because is that much work?
No, it really is.
Yeah, the hours are that different. The commitment is that different. And I don't think people get that.
And not only that, the emotional connection. That is a big part, because
What do you mean?
So a lot of people don't understand, when you have clients that are in the public eye, right? There is an emotional toll that takes. And when you are one of their advisors, then you kind of get in that boat with them, right? Because with them being the brand, there is a lot of pressure that is on them.
Right.
So in order to keep the business, i.e. the brand, i.e. the person going, there is this emotional toll, this emotional tax, whether it's, because I have accomplished X, my family expects for me to do Y,
yes.
Or, how is it that I'm expected to be on 24/7, but I'm a human? It's the emotional tax that sometimes the conversations that I am having have nothing to do with the law.
Amen.
But it is solely about like, hey, I need to know that you're okay as a person. Like, let's talk through it. I know that this happened. And what happens behind the scenes, even with social media making people feel like they have complete access and they know the full story. No, you don't.
Right.
You simply don't. And that's a hard part. That emotional side is a big part too, and it can be draining, especially when you care.
Right. And I've had to talk to my team about that a lot, about having some emotional separation as being on the team, because I have a couple people in particular who really internalize it. And I'm like, you can't do that. We must advise, we must be sensitive, but we have to learn how to compartmentalize, because other people's problems will keep you up at night.
Oh, and that's something that, depending on who the client is,
right?
That's still something that I struggle with, right? Because when you have worked with clients, and I'm talking about some of my clients I've been with since like year 2 or 3 of practice, it's hard not to care.
Absolutely.
But you do have to find the ways to turn it off, because it can consume you.
For sure.
It can consume you.
So when you think about your experience in the business, do you have like a particular client or deal that impacted you? Do you have like one kind of pivotal, like, ooh, this kind of changed things for me, whether it changed your life or it changed your perspective?
I think when I landed my first named artist in the music industry.
Big deal.
And yes.
Right.
And that was life-changing, because that was D-Rock of the Yin Yang Twins.
Okay.
And Kendall Mentor, rest in peace.
Right.
And I were co-counsel. He represented the other member and I represented D-Rock. And that was my first 5-figure retainer.
Okay.
Oh, I thought I was balling.
Come through with the 5 figures. Come through with the 5.
Like, okay.
Right.
And how I ended up being referred to him as a client is I did something for somebody that he knew. And he was looking for a new attorney, and they were like, she's thorough.
Okay.
She's newer, but she's thorough. And so that's how I ended up working with him. And I think it took me a while to come out of, you're not here by happenstance. You deserve to be here.
Right.
And your work is what has brought you here. So that was very pivotal, because it was kind of like, oh, wow, he's willing to work with me. And because I was so young in the game at that point, I felt like he was taking a chance on me, which he was. But I also had to come out of questioning if I belong there and stepping into I do.
Right.
Now, step into it, but not only that, like, make sure you don't look bad. So.
Right. You just said something really important that I hadn't even thought about talking about, and you just referenced co-counsel. And one thing that I really appreciated about you in your career, and also some of the other young attorneys who are part of our group, to see how you all leaned in with other attorneys and got the help and guidance when you needed that support. If you were, maybe it's new deal terms that you've never seen before. And can you just kind of talk about that? Because I think it's not just about the entertainment industry. Like, if you're at the beginning and you don't know what you're doing, please get some help.
Ooh, and that is so important. So again, when I was working with the Yin Yang Twins, Kendall and I would have deals that would come across. Of course, he would redline it for his client. I would redline it for my client. And as a learning tool, I would do my red line. And then when Kendall, who was seasoned
oh my gosh,
in the industry,
right,
I would see his and I would be excited. I'd be like, oh, okay, I got that. Okay, Kendall, can you explain why you did this, right? So it was a way for me to learn. But that's also why I'm so grateful for the collective, especially being a solo firm where I started, because I didn't have a down the hall.
Right.
I didn't have a colleague that I could go across the hall, but having a Sandra, Yawanda, Evita, it created the down the hall to be able to say, like, hey, I'm encountering something that I have not before. Have you guys seen this? Am I off? How have you guys dealt with this? Creating that is super, super important. That is where the power of BESLA, the Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association, comes
from.
For
sure.
Or whatever those organizations that are similar to that. Because what it does is it creates camaraderie, but it also creates coverage. And that's, for the people that are like, I'm self-made, you lying.
Yeah.
You lying. I mean, and that's just
quotable. That's quotable.
Yeah. Because you didn't do it by yourself,
no.
But you need it. And the other thing that I will say for young attorneys is understanding When you are out here representing clients and you don't know what you are doing, you are also running the risk of committing malpractice. There have been times that I have been across the table, and because I knew, like, okay, this is a young attorney, they look like me, I have had to say, hey, sidebar, you don't know what you are doing.
Absolutely.
And respectfully, you need to find somebody who can help you. Because if I wanted to play that game, I could run circles around you. But I'm telling you, you are outside of your league, even on a basic level. You don't know what you're doing and you're not properly representing your client.
And what I think is really important, look, I want to look in the camera and say this. I don't care if you're an attorney, an accountant. If you are new to your profession, please don't be so arrogant that you will not get help.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people who are afraid, or someone's going to steal my client, or I got this. It's too much at risk. So please surround yourself, and you can have co-counsel or leadership, mentorship. Maybe you'll split the fees, whatever it is. Take that time to learn. Please take that time to learn, because particularly from a legal perspective, you could get your client involved in a deal that they are locked into for years.
Yes.
Because you don't know what you're doing.
And I mean, like, not only that, I have seen the stories of colleagues that are like, oh, I don't need anybody. I'll figure it out.
Right.
And, I know a colleague right now that because they decided to take that route, they got a suit 6 figures.
Right.
Where, they are being required to pay legal fees for opposing counsel because they misrepresented. And it's, the story goes on, but it is one of those things that having a network of advisors is never problematic. And I know that it can be hard to hear no, or to feel that you're being rebuffed by, oh, I asked this person, they didn't, agree, or whatever the case may be. That just means that's not your people. Keep going. Keep looking.
Right. And the other thing, too, that I just want to say before we move on, again, not at all what I thought we'd be talking about today, but even if you're engaging legal counsel, please be asking the questions about what is their experience in this particular area. Because, to me, you all attorneys y'all like doctors to me. You go to a certain type of doctor based on what your ailment is.
Absolutely.
Y'all are the exact same way, and that one size fits all, it just isn't true.
No.
And it will get you in a lot of trouble not dealing with the right type of professional based on their area of expertise.
Yes. And the other thing, too, that people have to remember, like, especially when it comes to entertainment attorneys, most of us do not advertise.
Right.
It is word of mouth referrals. So ask the question, if you have somebody that is referring an attorney, especially in the entertainment space or any space, check their references, ask people about them. It'll come out real quick.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So folk knew you were coming. So we had a couple questions that were submitted in advance from our community.
Okay.
That I wanted to read. So this is Janet from Greenville. And she's like, hey, Keisha, I'm considering going into entertainment law, and I'm curious to hear your take on what's changed the most in entertainment law in like the last 5 to 10 years, especially with streaming, AI, social media, like all the things.
So entertainment, I will start with kind of the streaming, which goes to production council. There are a lot of productions that have left the country, not just the state, the country, right? After the last strikes.
So what that means is people are filming outside of the U.S. is what you're saying?
Outside of the U.S.
Okay.
Yes. And that's why I say outside of the country, not just outside of the states, because a lot of people are like, okay, Georgia has a tax incentive, so they're leaving the state. No, they're leaving the country.
And where are folk going?
Africa, Colombia, Mexico, you name it. Because what's happening is a lot of these countries for years have given incentives for people to come, but the dollar goes further. Mm-hmm. So what may take you, I don't know, $1 million to film in the U.S. because of all of the unions and the fees and all of that, you may be able to do it for $500,000-$600,000 in some of these other countries.
Wow.
And it is not that they don't have good crews. It's not that they don't have the expertise, because let's be honest, as Americans, we can be arrogant. We can think that we are the holy grail in everything. But there are film industries, there's Bollywood, there are all of these productions and things that have been filmed there for years. So the industry is changing big time. If I looked at, prior to the strikes, the number of production legal projects that I served on, I would say this year, I think there may have been four. And that's a huge drop.
Right.
A huge drop. Because again, while the strikes, there are some things that I 1000% agree with. The use of AI, not being, able to replace talent.
For sure.
However, big bank will always take little bank.
Right.
And you're not going to tell a studio how many projects that they have to greenlight in a year. So you increase these numbers that they have to pay out. They say, okay, that's fine. We're just going to decrease the number of productions that are going to go in the year, because they still have a set budget. You're not going to be able to alter their bottom line. So at the end of the day, what has happened, especially there are people who have been in the industry for 20 plus years. They've had to pivot. They're working at Walmart now.
Get out of here.
Seriously. Because the industry has changed that much. It has changed that much, and the number of productions are not plentiful anymore. It's crazy, the changes. And, when you look at AI, I think that it is one of those slippery slopes, just like when music had the whole change because Napster and Kazaa came on the scene,
Absolutely.
Right? We tend in the U.S. to be more afraid of the change, right? Whereas there are other countries like your China that embrace it. In China right now, I was just having a conversation during lunch with a friend, and she was telling me, like, right now, they have full medical centers in China right now that are run by AI. They're embracing it. We're still trying to figure it out, how to do it, what's too far.
Right.
But the U.S. also doesn't have the same regulations that some of these other countries have. So to answer Janet's question, the changes are plentiful across the landscape.
Right.
When you talk about influencers, when you talk about streaming and the projects that are being made, and again, because we consume so much, when you open up a Netflix and you see, oh my gosh, it's all of this content, people fail to realize how much of that, some of that content is relicensed. I take Suits, for instance. So many people just discovered Suits, even though that was a show that was on USA 7 years ago.
Right.
I was a first run, Suits fanatic. And so many people are like, oh, this great show called Suits just came out. And it's like, no. People don't even realize how much of the content is being recycled. So they think
it's new content.
But it's not.
Certainly cheaper if you're on the production side, just as like, let me just run this back one more time. You know how much money you can save just by running it back?
It's called mailbox money.
Right. Oh my God. Back to the mailbox.
Mailbox money.
Oh my gosh. That's interesting perspective though. Because again, as the consumer, people are just like, oh, I'm watching Hulu or Netflix or Prime, whatever, not understanding, what's happening.
Yes.
But you're right. You just see so much old stuff out there.
Not knowing
what the impact is on the industry.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about rookie mistakes, but I want to talk about it from the aspect of talent. So whether you're talking about a music artist, someone on the film and TV side, it could be the talent out front, or it could be the director or someone else. What are some rookie mistakes? People coming into the business, you're like, y'all, come on now.
I think one of the biggest rookie mistakes is thinking you know it all.
Right.
We all can, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And arrogance can cost you a lot of money, time, and sometimes your reputation. Another rookie mistake that I find is just sloppy work, right? I can't tell you the number of attorneys that their work product is sloppy. And so then it starts the chatter of, I don't know how good of an attorney
They're
that
not
is.
too tight over there.
Yeah. And on the talent side, I think one of the biggest rookie mistakes is not having your team tight. Because if you don't have the right team of people that are advising you, and, you know, I no longer say it can't be your homeboys, because I feel like LeBron has debunked that myth.
For sure.
Right? However, when you look at the way LeBron did it, LeBron hired the upper echelon and made them train his homeboys so that the people who were in position, they were qualified to be there. But a lot of times people are just like, oh, I just want somebody who I trust around me, which is a big thing.
For sure.
But you trust them and they're not actually doing the work in order to get the knowledge, is still detrimental.
And, you know, one thing that I appreciate you about sharing the LeBron story is not just that was his strategy, but how his friends leaned in and learned everything. Because that was really kind of like the internship time where he could figure out how committed are they for real.
Yes.
Like they leaned in. And no matter, all the way in. So learning from the best, you know, having the best opportunity, and now they're prepared to take him to the next level.
Yes.
That's a whole different strategy.
And, you know, this is something that's so interesting when it comes to that. A lot of times, especially in our communities, we feel like we have not arrived unless our team looks a certain way. That trust may not be there, even that care and concern, right? Because what we know about this industry, there are ebbs and flows. You can be up one day, down the next.
For sure.
But when you have people who are truly vested in you as the person versus you as the check, it hits different. And I just say this as a word of caution, like be mindful of who and when you trade your day ones, especially when they actually come to the table. But again, LeBron set the blueprint, because guess what? When he said, well, you can represent me, but this person is going to learn from you because of who he was, they weren't going to say no.
They didn't have a choice. Or they weren't going to work with LeBron.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the other thing that talent needs to know.
How powerful are they
How
for real?
powerful you are.
Right.
And the thing is, if you have somebody that says no, show them.
Right.
Okay. You're going to, like, you work for me, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times I think people don't understand the full extent of their power.
Right. No, I appreciate you sharing that. One last thing I want to ask you. Being in the entertainment industry, how has that impacted how you see fame, money, success? You know, because having the front row seat is a little different than just scrolling, you know, on Instagram, seeing what folk are doing, scrolling on TikTok.
I think really what it does is it creates a side eye for me. Like a lot of times, yeah, it's a side eye. It's like, you know, when people are like, oh, you know, this person does this and this person is that. And I'm like,
okay, if you say so.
Don't believe everything you see.
And I'm just like, why is it that we could be out places and people are acting like they know this talent?
Yes.
Like arguing, you know, and a lot of, I'm listening, not explaining my relationship to certain people. And I'm like, people feel really strongly like they know these people.
Yes, they feel entitled. But that also is what I was speaking about earlier, the emotional toll that takes, right? Because there is this line between how do you deal with a fan so that they remain a fan, but you still are able to have, you know, your moment to breathe or whatever the case may be. But it is the familiarity. And I remember my husband saying when social media first really changed, not, you know, when it was Black Planet, it was a little different back then, but when it became like Instagram and everything was accessible, he said, this is going to be a problem because now people are going to feel entitled to know everything that's going on with celebrities. And it is really going to blur the line between the mystique of, you know, if you think about it, when we were younger, it's like to see Michael Jackson
right.
was like
right.
a lunar eclipse or something, right?
Sure.
But then it's almost like people feel like they see the celebrities that are always on Instagram or always on social media. It's like, oh, I just saw them yesterday. And it's like, where?
Right.
Oh, they're doing this because I saw this on social media. People have no idea, like, that's not necessarily the full picture. But that fame piece and also just the toll, it's taxing.
Very taxing.
It is taxing. So, and like I said, the money that everybody thinks, when they go online and see what somebody's net worth is, a lot of people don't understand how you define net worth.
Right. And you know what I find interesting about that? So-and-so was worth this. So-and-so was worth that. I have been in the business 30 years. No one has ever called me to confirm that. I'm like, how are they calculating that? I'm like, where are these numbers coming from?
But a lot of people don't even understand that net worth does not mean liquid cash.
Right. Okay.
So
True.
That's a big part of it.
True. That's true.
And that's the craziest thing. Like, I've even had members of my family be like, oh yeah, well, online it says so-and-so is worth that. So, I mean, she should be able to loan me some money. And I'm like, first of all,
right.
Get out their business.
Right.
But even outside of that, like, it's more that goes into that than what most people understand. So, the fame piece, it's an illusion. It's an illusion.
Yeah. And how do you keep your footing in all of that? What do you do?
I'm a big family person. I stay close to my family and my friends, going back to my day ones. They keep me grounded. Like, I remember when I first was entering into the entertainment industry, and one of my best friends said to me, she was like, hey, I understand where you are going and what you're doing. She was like, but remember who you are, and don't allow all of this to change who you are. And that rang home to me because I went to a private, predominantly white high school coming out of the hood of South Memphis. And my grandfather told me that. He said, and he would always call me Granny Girl, but he said, Granny Girl, remember who you are, right? Mm-hmm. And that's been a common thread throughout my life. So I maintain my grounding and my footing because I have to remember who I am, because I still got all these people who remind me, like, you still Keisha Perry,
right,
from South Memphis.
Yes.
And the other thing too is, because of the illusion, you can easily get caught up and find yourself like, oh, I'm a part of it. And I think that's why I stay close to my people, like within the collective, my friends that, I'm able to be me. And it's not for what I can bring to the table. It's
Absolutely.
Not based on who I know, who I represent. It's just, I just get to be Keisha. And that keeps me grounded.
Right. In the world, but not of the world.
Yep.
Because
honestly, I want a parse of it.
I don't think you're crazy.
It's too heavy.
I know, it is heavy. So for people who want to know more about you and your firm and what you're up to, like, where can people follow you and check you out?
Well, I will be honest, when it comes to social media, it's a struggle.
Okay.
It's a struggle on social media because a lot of times, just in keeping my head down and doing the work, I probably don't capitalize off of social media as much. Mm-hmm. But I have an Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's at Keisha Perry ESQ. But primarily, I think that I always tell people my life is not for public consumption.
Okay, I love that.
And, that's how I am able to have been in this industry for 20 years and don't go crazy by it, because that comparison, it is the robber of joy.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm.
And so, I limit it. I limit, how much time I spend on it, what I'm watching, what I'm doing, because what you put in is what you also put out.
No question.
So I have to be mindful of that. But as far as my firm, www.perrylawgroup.com.
I love that. So anybody who wants to learn more about Keisha or think you might need some support in that film and TV space from a legal perspective or the music space, please check her out. You're on LinkedIn too, aren't you?
I am.
Active on LinkedIn. Keisha Perry-Walker on LinkedIn as well. And so thank you. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So happy for how your career has progressed and all the amazing things that you and your family have going on. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
And so for those of you who want more information, we do have, this is a series, our entertainment series. So please feel free to check out the previous episode that we had. We had Sherry Riley here before. Oh, yeah, your soror.
My soror.
she was here. And please continue to engage with us, within the Thank Me Later community, on social media, all of the things. We'd love to hear about what you have questions about, what type of topics you would like us to cover. And so, again, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Thank Me Later Show with me, your host, Jini Thornton, and I will see you next episode.